This proposed project is about promoting integration, tolerance of difference, and community cohesion through arts and culture. Cordoba House will provide a place where individuals, regardless of their backgrounds, will find a center of learning, art, and culture. And most importantly, a center guided by Islamic values in their truest form: compassion, generosity, and respect for all. In addition, the Cordoba House is not just a mosque. It's a community center. It's a multi-million-dollar project. It's gonna have 13 stories, and there's also going to be an interfaith group where they have people from different religions, come together and talk and try to understand each other and cooperate, encourage cooperation among the religions, and that's one of the most noble goals there are. There's also going to be a 9/11 memorial at the Muslim Community Center. So, here's the next part of his quote. Newt Gingrich, that is. Quote, "We have not been able to rebuild the World Trade Center in 9 years. Now we are being told that a 13-story, $100 million mega mosque will be built within a year overlooking the site of the most devastating surprise attack in American history. First of all, it's not like the people building the Cordoba House are hindering progress on the rebuilt One World Trade Center, which is being called the Freedom Tower. And there are many reasons why it's taken 9 years for them to build a new World Trade Center building. First of all, people couldn't agree for a long time, whether they wanted, a new building built there as opposed to just like maybe a reflecting pool or another monument, and B, the design of it. They didn't know what they wanted to look like, and it took a long time for them to design it, and now they are building it, and actually a lot of it's been built on the Freedom Tower, and it makes sense that it would take longer to build and plan, a 105-floor building, the Freedom Tower, than a 13-story building. And I don't think anybody who's building the Cordoba House is trying to hinder progress at all on the Freedom Tower, which hopefully is going along very well. You can check pictures of it online. It's actually come up pretty high. So I don't, no one is trying to overshadow the World Trade Center, the new building, and I don't think anybody is. The last part of the quote. Quote, "America is experiencing an Islamist cultural political offensive designed to undermine and destroy our civilization. Sadly, too many of our elites are the willing apologists for those who would destroy them if they could. We are not building a mosque or community center for the Islamist terrorists who would like to destroy us if they could. We're building it for the Muslims who want to worship here freely in America. And it's going to be a sign, it's going to be a great symbol. It's going to be like, look, here's this building that the terrorists destroyed, and we really built it again. And here's a mosque. And if you want to get away from, Islamic extremists, if you're in the Middle East and you want refuge, you can come here and worship freely. And women, you don't have to cover yourselves completely. And you can worship here freely and understand other religions. And it's right here. These religiously intolerant people knocked down a building, and right here we have, a building for you to come, and here's another church right here, and here's a synagogue, and this is New York, we have everything, and you can come here and be free." And I think it's a great symbol. And I think people who died in the attacks, people who worked in the World Trade Center, spreading freedom, people of all different races, would have liked to seen that. And as for the people who defend us, soldiers, there are Muslims there, and they're Muslim firefighters, Muslims who died in the attack, and they would like to see that we are not afraid of each other, and we won't stand to be afraid of each other. So this comes back to what Sarah Palin said. Doesn't it stab your heart? 9/11 attacks, yes. Religious freedom in the face of anything. No, that doesn't stab my heart. That makes me feel good. And how beautiful is it going to be with all the people who misunderstand Islam, if there's this place that's dedicated to its core values and not its perversions, and that it's a figure and presence as, any sign of attack or terrorist activity. And I wanted to go back because, Newt Gingrich made reference to apologists. Well, I wanted to read him a quote from another apologist who happens to be a Republican, George W. Bush. And I believe that one of George W. Bush's crowning moments of his entire presidency was after 9/11, when he, denounced anyone, attacking Muslims and said Muslims are our friends. And this comes from his statement from a joint address to Congress on September 21st, 2001. The terrorists practice a fringe form of Islamic extremism that has been rejected by Muslim scholars and the vast majority of Muslim clerics. A fringe movement that perverts the peaceful teachings of Islam. I also want to speak tonight directly to Muslims throughout the world. We respect your faith. It's practiced freely by many millions of Americans and by millions more in countries that Americans count as friends. Its teachings are good and peaceful, and those who commit evil in the name of Allah blaspheme the name of Allah. The terrorists are traitors to their own faith, trying, in effect, to hijack Islam itself. The enemy of America is not our many Muslim friends. It is not our many Arab friends. Our enemy is a radical network of terrorists and every government that supports them. So that's George W. Bush. The enemy of America is not our Muslim friends. The enemy of America is not Muslim worshippers who want a community center, no matter where it is. They are our friends, and we should let them build whatever they want, wherever they want it. As well as we would build a church wherever we want. Newt Gingrich wouldn't say that we shouldn't build a church near the church that got bombed, in Birmingham, because KKK members were Christians, and it's going to be okay to build a mosque near the World Trade Center because Muslims are not terrorists. Terrorists are terrorists. Okay, and in case people don't believe that these Muslims are as gung-ho and for freedom and against terrorism, in case they don't think that, here are some quotes. This quote is from a Muslim scholar and leader denouncing Osama bin Laden. Osama, how much blood has been spilt? How many innocent people, children, elderly, and women have been killed in the name of Al-Qaeda? Will you be happy to meet God Almighty carrying the burden of these hundreds of thousands or millions of victims on your back? This quote is from a man named Sheikh Salman Al-Ouda, or Al-Ouda, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. And he has a website called Islam Today. And the man has an interesting history. In his younger years, he was more militant and more prone to violence, and he was jailed for a few years, but, now he's all for peace among the religions and for equality and denouncing violence. And this is another one of his quotes. We as Muslims share with the Jewish and Christian communities many points of commonality. These include belief in God, belief that He revealed scriptures to humanity and set a succession of prophets. The Quran, we notice, addresses the Jews and Christians from the vantage point of these points of agreement. Here's another quote of his from another article. I'll have links to all these sources on the side, or maybe during the video. I have persistently called upon our sincere scholars and preachers, and continue to call upon them to describe things by their proper names, and to disassociate the word jihad from the activities of those killing organizations which murder innocent people and undermine security in societies around the world, regardless of whether those societies are Muslim or non-Muslim. Since carrying out atrocities and targeting civilians is categorically forbidden in Islam. If this is what Islamic people want to teach in this community center, if they want to teach understanding and they want to denounce violence, then right next to World Trade Center is the perfect place to put this mosque. Um, and that's my video. I welcome all responses, negative or positive. I want to hear whatever you have. I want to hear if you think I got something wrong. And thank you for listening to me.